Hello and welcome to ReginaldESQ. I'm Underhook and this is my review of the British Tier 8 tank destroyer, the AT-15. So is it any good? Well, it's okay. Not bad. It has some great attributes, but it also has some serious flaws, particularly in the armor, which stops it being what I would call a good tank. It operates quite well at Tier 8, but above that it struggles. Now let's get into review. It has by the way, this review is going to be a bit controversial because of some things that I will point out during the review, particularly about the gun and the armor. So it might be a bit of a long one, I apologise for that, but I'll get into it now. It has 1,450 hit points, which is more than any of the other tank destroyers in its tier. Now, to give you an idea of how many hit points that is, the next closest is 1,200 on Ferdinand. So it has substantially more hit points than the other tank destroyers. It weighs from 61 to 66 ton, which is fairly heavy. It's probably the similar weight to the Ferdinand and the T-28 prototype, so it's quite a heavy tank. So people won't be ramming you and doing lots of damage to you. The engine has 650 horsepower and has a speed limit of 20 kilometers an hour, which it's slow. Now there are other slow tank destroyers at this tier. So the T-28 and the T-28 prototype only do 18 kilometers an hour. So, but pretty much all the other tank destroyers are considerably faster than that. So you are, pretty slow. The traverse speed of this tank is the equal worst, along with the T-28 and the T-28 prototype. So, maneuverability quite poor. Now, some of the others are too. The ISU 152, the 30, they only have 21, so they're only slightly better. But then they have a better actual speed, so they can kind of compensate for it. But yeah, if small, medium, light tanks get behind you, you're in deep trouble in this tank. Now, the view range of 370 is also the equal worst, but then again, none of the other tanks have much better. Look, the Waffle has 400, which is substantially better than everybody else. But all the other tanks either have 370 or 380. So you're not substantially worse than anyone else. It just happens to be the equal worst with about 4 of the other tank destroyers. Now the signal range though of 782 is the equal best, along with the AMX AC-48. So good signal range, which is helpful for scouts radioing positions to you. Now while we're talking about that, really this tank can be a brawler at Tier 8 because the armor holds up okay at Tier 8. However, Tier 9 and 10s will punch a hole through pretty much anywhere in your armor without any regard, even if you're angling. They just don't care. Heavies, tank destroyers will just punch holes through your armor. So at Tier 9 and 10, you really need to be at a long range and sniping with this tank. Because then your armor will be more effective. It will stop some shots, and also it's harder for them to aim at your weak spots at long range. Now, bearing that in mind, the camouflage on this tank isn't great. So it's not the worst, but it's down there with the worst. And now, since the changes in the last patch 8.11 or whatever it is, they made it so that tank destroyers lose their camouflage when they fire their gun. It used to be that tank destroyers maintained their camouflage even while firing, which was a big advantage for them. And this tank could do quite well then at range. Now that they've nerfed that, which was fair enough, I think. It's not a bad idea to nerf that. But it now means this tank is not so hot at long range. You will get hit by artillery. Relocating is very difficult due to the speed and or lack of speed. So yeah, you suffer. It's not as good at range as it used to be, but it's okay. Now the gun depression on this tank is excellent. It has 10 degrees of gun depression, so you can actually go up on hills with this tank, or shoot down off hills. It's quite effective. In fact, shooting down off hills with this tank is one of the advised positions because it does protect your cupola and this section here on the tank, which is very weak. It does help cover those if you're firing down on someone. So that is an advised position to be in, preferably far away and firing down. Now, the gun elevation is only 10 degrees though, so the elevation is poor, but the depression is excellent. Also, the gun traverse on this tank is very, very good. The gun moves to, if you watch my little cursor here, goes right over to about here, to here, which is a huge traverse. So that is a great thing about this tank. You can actually sort of angle your tank like that and point your gun at people. So it's very, very good in that respect. And I'll go into the armor and that traverse in much more detail in Tank Inspector, because I have got some things to say about that. Now let's get into the grind for this tank and have a look. Okay, you have got a pretty big gun selection, as you can see. Radios, engines, all that. Engines don't make a great deal of difference. The tracks give you 2 more in traverse. Now let's see, the guns, even the stock gun is okay actually for a little while, with 171 penetration, very low damage though of 150, but 0.32 accuracy and 1.7 aiming time. It's actually a very good gun, and just with the stock gun you can do quite well, especially at tier 8. 9 and 10 of course you have a bit of trouble with it. Now this gun here, I never even bothered getting it. I'll get rid of this gun now because you won't keep that for very long, and then I'll get the other 2 up here. Now I'll just quickly tell you about this 20 pounder here. Basically you've got the A barrel and the B barrel. The only difference between the guns is that the B barrel gives you a better rate of fire, better accuracy and better aiming time. So you probably want to get it, but it's a lot of experience to research it, and it's hard yakka. So if you just want to get past this tank, you may not want to worry about it, although from my understanding is on the Tortoise you do have this gun, so you may as well upgrade it now. But all it gives you is 11.1 goes to 12 on rate of fire, accuracy goes from 0.31 to 0.3, which is a very slight increase, and aiming time goes from 1.9 to 1.7, which is pretty good. But I'll get rid of that gun because there's no point in really talking about it. It's just slightly worse in every department. So the choice really is between a 32 pounder and the 20 pounder. Now the 32 pounder has a rate of fire of 10.17, which is a bit slower than the 20 pounder at 12. The penetration is also less at 214 versus 226, but the damage is higher, so it does 250 rather than 230, which is a fair bit better. That's kind of, you know, you're 7 or 8% better. It's kind of worth it in some ways. The accuracy is 0.33, which is pretty good, versus 0.3, which is amazing. But the aiming time of 2.1 versus 1.7 is considerably worse. 2.1 is still not too bad, but it's just a lot worse than 1.7 is fantastic. So it's a bit of a choice there. You're not sacrificing too much in rate of fire or too much in pen. And if you're one of those people who just fires gold ammo all the time anyway, you'll get 246 pen. And I know there are people doing it because a lot of them, I'm playing against a lot of them at the moment, they just fire premium ammunition all the time. So if you're that kind of person, you'd probably be better off going with this gun because you're getting the pen anyway, and you can get extra damage from the gun. I didn't go with it because I don't really like firing premium, and because of the aiming time being longer, I went with this gun. Now, I have something controversial to say about the gun. The listed accuracy of 0.3 and on the A barrel is 0.31. I don't believe it. I don't believe it's that accurate. My accuracy on this tank is about the same as my Type 61, my Tier 9 Japanese tank, which has an accuracy of 0.36, and I reckon that's about the accuracy you get with this gun. My FV215B British Tier 10 heavy tank has an accuracy of 0.33, and my accuracy is far better on that tank, my accuracy rating, and it just, when I fire that gun feels real accurate, 0.33. This one, I miss a lot of shots that I should hit. I've noticed there is a tendency for shots to go high with this gun, which means when you're aiming at cupolas, which I tend to do a lot, especially at Tier 9 and 10, because that's pretty much the only way I can penetrate them with 226 pen, they go high a lot. I would say 33% of my shots go high and I miss. And we're not talking real long range. We're talking 200, 250 meters. For 0.3, it should be hitting him on the button. So I don't believe the accuracy is anywhere near as good as advertised on this gun, which is really, it was a big disappointment for me that it was, you know, worse than the gun on FV215, which is listed as .33. And it is pretty similar to my Type 61, and sometimes my Type 61's better, sometimes it's not. Same with this, sometimes it's better, sometimes not. Alright, so now let's have a look at Tank Inspect, have a look at the armor. And I'll talk about strategy of the tank there a little bit as well. Yeah, we'll go into that and do that. Tank Inspector, AT-15, here we go. First of all, I'm just going to review the armor, and then I'm going to get into the what I call controversial area. Okay, so these red sections here on the beak of the tank and up around the front of the tank is 229mm thick, which is quite thick armor. And that will stop a lot of the tier 6, 7s and a fair few of the 8s. The upper glacis here is 127mm thick, and it is sloped, and it also extends across these, I'll call them cheeks I guess here, as well, but that's quite heavily sloped also. Now, the side of the tank has 152mm armor, which is quite thick for the sides of a tank. We also have here a band of spaced armor overlaying the 102mm underneath on the lower sides. The spaced armor is only 13mm thick, but it will help stop HE and heat shells from penetrating the side of your tank. Now, on the rear of the tank here, we only have, well, actually, when I say only, it's 102mm, which is a lot for the rear of a tank. But these green sections here are very easily penetrated, 38mm, as is the top deck and the whole top of the tank. So, artillery will still have a nice time with you, and you're pretty slow, so they do like to get into you. Alright, now, the other thing is the cupola here is 127mm thick. And there is this section here, which is 76mm. Now, let's get into the weaknesses of the armor. Well, actually, there's a key advantage to this having a great traverse. The gun will traverse pretty much right over to here. It points, the gun hovers just over the edge of the tracks here. That means you can angle your tank to about this much and still point your gun at people, which in most tank destroyers you can't do. So that's an excellent thing about the tank. You can angle it like this. Now you can see here on the upper glacis, that's increasing our 127 to the equivalent of 198, which is excellent. The beak becomes 305, virtually impenetrable except for some tier 9s and 10s. And this section, which is flat when you're front on and can be easily penned by tier 9s and 10s, becomes a bit more difficult when it's angled. It comes up to 250. They can still rip into it though. However, when you're angled like this, some areas become weaker. So these rounded areas, which are strong frontally when you're front on, now if I go over here, 127 is only 149. So it actually this section actually becomes weaker and can be penetrated more easily because it's rounded in. Same with this area here. Although at 183 it's still not bad. The same with this area here, although you will have your gun turned towards them, so that'll alleviate that because that mantle armor will overlap it. The cupola, as you can see, can be accessed from any direction. Now, when you're angled, the side of the tank is excellent. So we've got the 152mm of armor. When angled here, which is pretty much a maximum angle you can do and keep your gun pointed at them, is the equivalent of 327. So nobody's going to pen you there when you're angled to them. So your side's fully protected, and you can kind of side scrape a little bit if you wish to. It's not proper side scraping, but it still kind of works. And so yeah, it does help a lot doing that. Now, there is still a massive problem, and that is this strip of green here. It is sloped, as you can see, but even when you're angled, it's very vulnerable. It's only 76mm thick, and it's even on this angle, it's coming up as 160. If you're front on, it comes up as 145. Anybody who knows this tank well will shoot the center area of your mantlet, they will shoot this green strip, and they will shoot your cupola. If they're a higher tier, they just won't care. They'll penetrate you here, they'll penetrate you anywhere. The armor just doesn't stand up at tier 9 and 10 for most heavies and tank destroyers. Now, this means, and this is one of the reasons I kind of don't like this tank, you cannot, well, when I say I don't like it, it's alright, but I don't like it as much as its predecessor, the AT-7. The AT-7 had the gun mounted on the side and had the cupola kind of in the middle. So if you covered one section of your tank and just left this side exposed, you were able to hide all of your weaknesses and just fire at the enemy. Admittedly, you couldn't angle it because it was terrible traverse, but you could hide your weaknesses. On this tank, it has so many weaknesses, you can't hide them. It's impossible to hide your weaknesses. If you go hull down to protect your hull, you're showing your cupola and this green strip. If you, say, hide behind a building where it's covering your cupola, so you're just sticking this side of your tank out, you still have to show your mantlet, which you can't hide if you want to shoot anyone, and they're going to be able to shoot through the center of your mantlet. And you still have to show these strips here and the flat section with a machine gun in it on this side, which doesn't show up in Tank Inspector, but it is a weak spot. You cannot hide your weak spots in this tank. Now I'm going to get into the controversial area, and that is on the mantlet here, we're showing it overlaying the armor underneath. So it's 102 over 152, which is giving us 307. Fantastic. The center section, terrible at 76. People will pen you there. The pink area, no good. 127 to 152. Sorry, that's just that section. Here, the pink area is 127. They're going to pen you through that too, and you do get penned in the center. A lot of people aim for that. Now, according to Tank Inspector, if we look just here, it goes to 102 only. But as soon as we move a bit further out, we've got the overlaid armor, and it's equivalent of 337, which is virtually impenetrable. What I'm saying is that's not correct. Look there. See, it's giving us the double overlay there? Nah. I'm saying that's not correct. I have written to Tank Inspector and explained why I think it's incorrect, but they have come back and said, no, that's the values that we have, that's what it is. However, this gun has very good gun traverse. If the gun points over here, and it does, it reaches just over the edge of the tracks. We draw a line back from there, comes to about here. Now, for the gun, that means the gun has to be able to get to this point. For the gun to get to this point, there can't be any armor under there. If there's armor under there, the gun won't move. Now, according to Tank Inspector, there's armor under there until we get to here. Well, that would mean the gun couldn't point any further across than that. So that's not right. And I have a clip to prove it. A Jackson has a penetration of about 160 mils, penetrated me right here. And I'm going to show you a clip of that in a minute, so you know I'm not making this up. But for the gun to get to here, there can't be armor under there. And from the amount of times I've been penetrated here and here, with my gun facing straight ahead, I can tell you that there is an armor under there. Anyway, that's my opinion. You can comment about it if you wish, or say I'm wrong. But so far, no evidence to the contrary. That's what I believe. So I'll show you the clip now in the Jackson, and that'll show you that. But yeah, this tank, long range is okay, because at long range people have trouble hitting your weak spots, and also their penetration of course weakens off, and you'll bounce a lot of shots. At close range in tier 8, you will bounce a fair few shots off people who don't know where to aim. But people who know where to aim will still get you. But at tier 8 you can brawl, you can go through a town and push your way through. So long as you have other people helping you out a bit, you'll do okay. But in tier 9, 10s, forget it. You'll push out in the open, you go bang, 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 and you're dead. And at long range, without the camouflage that you used to have, you do okay for a little while. Okay, let's get into the clip showing you the Jackson penetrating, and I'll show a few other tanks showing where they pen, and then we'll get into some gameplay. Alright, so here we are. I'm going to show you the shot. Now you can see it's a tier 8 game, and I've been penetrated through the mantlet a couple of times already, and you can see there's been some bounces off the rest of my tank. And alright, let's play. Now I will get shot by IS, and it will bounce, and then shortly after that I get shot by the Jackson. So there's a shot by an IS-3 actually, which actually bounced, and that's that shot. That's the higher shot there on the mantlet. So it looks like, because my gun is angled towards him, that's actually got the double overlaid armor, so it hasn't penetrated, because my gun is angled that way. Alright, now let's keep rolling. Roll them. Okay, penetrated by a Jackson. Standard armor piercing ammo for 223. I'll move a bit further back, and there it is. That's the shot. Now I just moved my gun a bit further over this way just then, just after he shot me. You probably just saw it moving a little bit, so that looks a bit more towards the center than it actually is. But if we look at the front of the tank and line it up with the center of the gun mantlet, you can see It's not in the center. It's quite a way off to the left. So that's that shot. That's it right there. That shot there. And I'm lining up now the center of the tank with the center of the top of the mantlet. And it's not in the center. It's off to the side. And that's further across than where anybody says there's armor underneath. Everybody says there's armor under there. Or everybody. Tank Inspector and maybe Wargaming. But there's no tank. There's no armor under there. 160 pen the Jackson has. And it's penned it. It's supposed to, if it's overlaid, it's the equivalent of 300. So yeah, and I've just moved the gun a little bit further across, so it would have been even further across than that when it hit me, a little bit further. Anyway, that's my idea of evidence. If you have contrary evidence, please feel free to present it. Okay. Yeah.
Let's get this show on the road.
Okay, in my Tier 8 AT-15 British tank destroyer, it's a Tier 8 game. So we can take a few hits. There's some, not many Tier 7s really, but there's a few Tier 7s and a bunch of Tier 6s, so pretty good matchup for this tank. So I've decided I'm going to initially start from a point of safety, but then try and get into some brawling. So this particular game, I want to show you a bit of brawling, and then the next game, I'll show you more or less a long range game, because the next game after this is a Tier 9 game. As you can see, excellent turret traverse. I've got it pointed across there, the gun at the moment. Although the tank, as you can see, also is quite slow. Now, I've played around 200 games in this tank, just over 200 games I think. And most of the games are actually pretty enjoyable. My crew is all 100%. I also have vents fitted, and I'm pretty sure I have coated optics fitted. Because this tank is slow, you need to sort of be moving a lot. If it depends. If you're Tier 8, I like to move a lot. At other tiers, I sort of camp a bit more. But so I've got the coated optics, vents. And yeah, the crew also have some skills. They're quite a well-trained crew. Most of the crew are onto their third skill. Skills would be mostly repairs and camouflage. I might sped this up a little bit to 2 times. We'll take a shot at the Cromwell there, but he moves just before we can get to him. And I'm at 2 times again. Just waiting to see if anybody presents themselves, and I'm slowing it down to 1 times again now. Now I was hoping that a scout or something would have gone ahead by now.
Penetration.
As you see, easily penetrating a Nashorn. Was hoping to track in there, but I couldn't get the shot in. We are bouncing shots from the AT-8. I aimed his cupola. I think it actually misses his cupola, but we still get the shot in. Nashorn's too good to resist, so I move off. Now we got hit there by artillery. I take another shot at the AT-8 and misses, once again misses the cupola. I think that one went in to the cupola. Now I have to move because artillery knows where I am. So I temporarily move in behind the rock. I should have disappeared off the radar now. Oh, there he goes. He should went my last known position. And I've decided now to move forward. So artillery's fired. I got a small break. Trying to move across a little to the left to use the rock as cover from the guys who are on the other side of that rock, or looking down the valley there, and hoping I can get in. So as I said, I want to be a bit aggressive in this game because there's not a lot of Tier 8s, so my armor should hold up fairly well. And the IS looked a bit to be a bit of a scaredy cat, so he really, with his speed, should have come up here much earlier. But I figure if I start pushing, he might do something as well. I'm a bit disappointed there are no other tanks with us though. No one else seems to have wanted to come up this line. We could use some help. They're all hanging back there. They're all tank destroyers and arty. I've been spotted, as you can see. My commander does have 6th sense. So we've got the Panther on up there, and we've got another tank coming to help us now. Medium tank, Pershing. They're a good tank. Pretty good armor, Super Pershing. And then we've got a Jag Tiger 88 over there as well. The IS has now moved forward. So that AT-8 should be a one-shot kill if we can get in there. I'm just trying to get past everyone now so I can just keep moving and get up and shoot something. But the tank is frustratingly slow. When people are moving backwards and forwards like that, I know it's good for them, but it's very frustrating when you're trying to pass them.
Penetration.
Okay, so hit the Panther on the way through. I do have to be a little bit careful here. That was a nice pen because I can't turn quickly, so because they're on two sides of me now, I'll be a little bit careful about going out into the middle of them. So I see a chance to go down here without exposing my side to the Jag Tiger there.
Enemy armor is hit.
Our IS gets the other guy, so if I can finish off this Panther, hopefully. Yep. Alright. So now, keeping my armor angled, as you can see, to the Jag Tiger. Managed to bounce a shot.
The radio man is down. We can only
He gets that one in, however, and I bounce off him.
We didn't even.
I figure I've got to move forward. I'm lucky he bounces off me.
We didn't penetrate.
I take a shot just because I can. Wasn't really expecting it to do anything.
Enemy is hit.
Managed to get another one through. I'm using premium ammunition on this guy.
That one didn't go through.
So that one didn't go through. That was my last premium round. I think I had 3 premium rounds, so I've used them all now.
They're knocked out.
But that one does penetrate and we finish him off. Yeah, because I was looking at the replay there thinking, gee, I'm surprised that I've been able to penetrate that Jag Tiger because they're hard to pen, and then I realised I was using premium ammo. We get hit by artillery again. The perils of being very slow. I use my repair kit to get my tracks up again. I can't afford to be stationary out here. I don't want artillery to have another shot at me. So we're winning quite well. It's 11-7. Spotted a VK here.
Enemy armor is
Straight
hit.
through the turret. And I don't know what tank that was on our side, but somebody with a big gun, SU-152, finishes him off. Gun sounds great, that SU-152. Oh, just heading towards the cap. They've only got 3 tanks left, so I'm just seeing, hopefully we'll come across something. We can see there the Lowy, the Lurva, or Lowy, or whatever you want to call it, is that our cap is capping. Which is pretty silly to do. But anyway, we get a shot on this gem and we set him on fire, which is a bonus.
Penetration.
We get another shot into him, and now one more shot to kill him. And our ATA pulls out in front of us and blocks the shot. Thanks, mate. That's great. He gets hit for his trouble and finally gets the kill. After he stole our kill, so let's get the Arty. One more shot and we'll have the Arty. Oh, great. Thanks, matey. Anyway, good game. Okay, so good game. We can see there we got the high caliber award, and we also got the steel wall award for taking heaps of shots. Good looking screen. We got first class with that game as well. Have a look at the next screen. So we let's see. Yes, of course we finished on top for experience and on top for damage as well. Good game. Next screen. And we fired 20 shots, of which 18 hit. So accuracy was pretty good, although the shots weren't exactly going on some of them where I was aiming, but we still were hitting the tanks. Penetration of 18 shots was 14. I did use premium ammo on that Jag Tiger. Damage, we did 3,376, which is very good for this tank. I don't think I ever got more than 4,000 damage in this tank, because the gun doesn't do a lot of damage per round. Hits received 11, of which only 4 penetrate, so we bounced a lot of shots. Non-penetration 7. Hits received as a result of splash damage 3, so that was artillery. We spotted 4, damaged 7, and destroyed 3, which is very good. And damage due to our assistance was 1,836, and that was just because we just kept pushing forward and staying at the front. And because I've got coated optics, that helps, and we were spotting a lot of tanks, or tanks that got damaged. Now we earned 56,000, which is very nice. And even though I used a repair kit for 3,000, and we used I think was it 5 rounds or 3 rounds of premium ammunition, which cost us 24,000, we still made 20,000 profit, which is pretty good. Although this is, I've heard, the least profitable of the tier 8 tank destroyers, simply because the amount of damage it does per round, for the price of the rounds, it's not very good. But we won and had a very good game, so you know, that's why. Now we did receive 1,258 XP, which is excellent, and that gave us first class. So I guess to get mastery, you're probably looking at about 1,400 XP, which is extremely high for mastery. So there's a lot of people out there doing very well in this tank.
Let's get this show on the road.
Tier 9 game. About half the tanks on each side are tier 9, and most of the rest are tier 8, except for a couple of one artillery on each side. I'm going to speed it up a little bit while I move into position. As you can see, the tank's, you know, not fast. Admittedly though, uphill it doesn't slow down extraordinarily badly. It's like it's not too bad going uphill. Doesn't, you know, like if you look at it now back to normal speed, you know, just starting to slow down now. I've been going up the hill for a fair while, so it's not too bad. And look at the Jag Tiger there, we're actually outpacing it up the hill. Okay, so speed it up again while we get into position. Okay, I'm slowing down normal speed again, just blowing away a bit of cover there, so I can hopefully see any tanks coming through better. Now, you might say after watching these 2 games, gee, the armor's fantastic, it holds up really well. That would be a false impression, because I'm showing you games where I've done well. Games where I've done well are ones where I happen to get some lucky bounces. So yeah, you will have plenty of games, I'm just going to speed this up again to 2 times, where every shot penetrates you, and yeah, you die very, very quickly. So I'm not getting any action. There appears to be no enemy there, so I've decided to move. They normally come around that side, but nobody, looks like nobody came. So I've decided if I'm going to get any shots in, I've got to move. So I was intending to make this more of a sniping game. I'm back to normal speed now. Lorraine. Yeah, I was intending to make this more of a sniping game because there are tier 9s, and my armor will not hold up at close range. I'm going to speed this up a little bit. Back to normal speed now. We might be getting a shot here.
Penetration.
Very nice of him to appear just as we were ready to fire.
Enemy armor is damaged.
Couple of nice shots there. As you can see, the shell velocity is very good. The shells do move quite quickly. And it is a good gun, there's no doubting that. I just dispute the accuracy of the gun. Once again, just like I'm telling you, the armor will look really good in these games because I'm doing well in these games. And just by the same token, the gun will look fantastic in these games because these games, the gun just happens to do everything right. But trust me, the accuracy is not as good as it's advertised. There are plenty of games where you would be just amazed how many shots I missed at.
Enemy armor is hit.
Darn it, into the dirt. So fairly close game, 7-5. We're actually winning, not too badly. No one's really had a go at me yet. I was lucky with that shot. I was actually going to shoot him a bit further back in the tank, but he stopped. Still took the shot, and it luckily went through the front of his tank, even though it was very well angled to me. I guess his arm is just not that good. Haven't driven that tank, the A. So anyway, as you can see, it is quite a good tank as a sniper, so long as he can remain undetected. And that range, to a lot of people, won't bother to shoot at you when you're at long range, because they'll find an easier target because they know at range you are hard to penetrate. Alright, so making a move to get to here, to get to the VK. I've been shot by a Centurion from the side, and the tank, you know, by these sort of high level tanks can penetrate the side quite easily if it's flat on. But he only gets one in, luckily. Here he comes.
Penetration.
Straight through the cheek.
Armor is hit. Enemy is hit.
Like I said, the accuracy looks fantastic
Armor
now.
is hit.
Always the way. So he's bounced off us and never did him. Let's just see where he was aiming at us, if we can. Okay, so he's been aiming for our cupola, but he's hit here, so he obviously, his shot went a bit low. Alright. And that's where the Centurion hit us on the side there. Okay. Can't quite get a shot. I'm trying to move back a little bit to elevate my tank a little bit, because I'm a little bit down in a valley there. I'm hoping if I elevate a little bit I'll get a shot on the Centurion. No luck. I'm going to speed it up. 4 times speed. Oh, slowing it down again, and we might have a shot here. Indeed we do.
Armor is damaged. Penetration.
Hopefully we've tracked him. I think we have.
Penetration.
So you can see there he had a lot of trouble penetrating us. Let's just have a quick look and see what he was hitting, if we can. And there you go. He was actually going for the cupola, but you can see there he hit the side of it from the front. So he's pretty much just ricocheted off the side of it. He's missed, basically. But he knew enough to go for it. He just couldn't hit the center of it. Another Centurion. Oh, can we get him through there? No, it was asking a bit much, or we might get one. Too late. Speed up the game again. 4 times. Make that 8 times. 4 times. 2 times. 1 time.
Enemy armor is
Well, we've tracked him. Yes.
We didn't
Oh, we bounced off
penetrate
him.
their armor. Enemy armor is destroyed.
Haha. End of the game. Okay, so once again that was a class 1 game, first class badge. And we did okay considering it was tier 9 game. Have a look at the next screen. And we finished on top for experience, and we were on top for damage as well. Next screen, and we could see that we fired 24 shots, of which 20 hit, which is excellent result. Of the 20 that hit, 18 penetrated, once again an excellent result. That gave us 3,708 damage. I'm very happy with that. We received 4 hits, only one of those penetrated. That was that Centurion got the penetration, and I think it got all the bounces as well once we were angled a little better to it. Let's see, enemy vehicles damaged 6, destroyed 3, very happy with that. Also, we did a lot of assistance damage, 2,654, which is very, very good, due to having our optics and just, well, actually, I don't really know why we got that. We weren't really at the front line, were we? Anyway, credits, 62,000. I didn't use any premium ammunition, and we didn't really get much damage, so we made a big profit of 44. Now, that was 1,367 XP, which is a lot of XP, but still only first class. So based on these 2 first class games, I'd say you'd be looking at maybe 1,500 XP to get first class. That's a hell of a lot. So it's not easy, I mean, to get mastery. So it's not easy to get mastery in this tank. Okay. Thank you for watching my review of the AT-15. If you liked the review, please give it a thumbs up, and if you'd like to see more, please subscribe to ReginaldESQ. Do have fun.